Hello, I'm John Coleman from ApocatastasisInstitute for the Humanities, an alternative college and high school here on New Milford, Connecticut, USA. The purpose of this live broadcast, thanks to your donations and recording, is to get up to date with the news on News with the Fetz. Unfortunately, Dr. Fetzer today has been occupied, and so I am winging it alone. So I hope you'll bear with the poverty of your presenter here, but I trust that the dynamic news stories that we are faced with on this 9th of May will make up for that. Because we're alone here together, we don't have Dr. Fetzer. Let's have a poem. And you can download a lot of this poetry. It's coming together, but we do have the first week available for free download on our site. And this is part of our regular cursus of readings that we call the project. And you can join us in those readings every day on these video platforms, as well as, well, in class as well. So I won't derail things with gibbering on about the project too much, but this is a poem from Patrick McPhirish, The Wayfarer. The beauty of the world hath made me sad, this beauty that will pass. Sometimes my heart hath shaken with great joy to see a leaping squirrel in a tree, or a red ladybird upon a stalk, or little rabbits in a field at evening lit by a slanting sun, or some green hill where shadows drifted by, some quiet hill where mountainy men hath sown, and soon would reap near to the gate of heaven. Or children with bare feet upon the sands, or some ebbed sea, or playing on the streets of little towns in Connacht, things young and happy. Then my heart hath told me, these will pass and change, and die and be no more. Things bright and green, things young and happy, and I have gone upon my way, sorrowful. That's The Wayfarer by Patrick McPhirish. Presumably written when he was studying the popularity of Gaelic in the west of Ireland, and what's called the Gaeltacht area. Some of those scenes come to mind from there. Anyhow, our little poem there, a little bit melancholy, but here in Connecticut on this 9th of May, it's very, very wet and dampy, and I suppose melancholy enough, although I really do like rainy days and the sound of the rain. In fact, I can open the window up a bit more. We'll get more of that sound. My dehumidifier loves this. There we go. Eat your heart out. Fake audio rain. We got the real deal here. All right. So here we are, I'm afraid bereft for today of Dr. Fetzer, and we will have queued up in the best Fetznerian fashion our story. So we're going to get into the new Pope of the Roman Church, as well as the provocations with India and Pakistan. And then what we used to call in America, when Americans had some self-respect and knew a little bit about their history, VE Day. The Russians, mind you, still celebrate today. And, in the Allied countries, especially these United States, it's amazing that the commemoration of the end of the European front of the war has been so forgotten, given how remarkable World War II was in the development of America, especially on the international stage, and actually a great deal of internal social changes as well. So it's quite remarkable, not in a good way, that we've forgotten things, but the Russians have not. And indeed, in fairness, the European theater really was the area where Russia dominated. What do they say? For every 10 10 Allied soldiers who died. In Europe, 9 of them were Russian bodies, right? 9, out of every 10 bodies that took a bullet freeing Europe from the Nazis, 9 of them were Russian bodies. So, yes, I hope that our AI art did a good job. It got the Russian domes in it, got the soldiers for India, Pakistan, and got the Pope figure and the dandelions. How do you like that? Yeah, you can check out the thumbnail for this broadcast. Anyway, Cardinal Robert Francis Provost, elected as the 267th Pope, taking the name of Leo the 14th. So there's himself on the balcony, or the loggia, if you want to be real proper about it, the loggia of St. Peter's, looking rather, I thought, like St. Paul VI or Pius XII, just in terms of facial features and whatnot. Customary regalia there with the stole, which is that piece of burgundy cloth around his shoulders. Priests and bishops will wear it, as you see here. The Pope is, amongst other obligations, the Bishop of Rome. He's the proper diocesan Bishop of Rome. Deacons will wear that stole from their shoulder to their hip, so it'll be on a slanting pattern there, but that's just a little bit of inside baseball. You have the Capa Magna. I believe the Capa Magna is the name for that purple cape. And then you have the white cassock, which is, as I reminded our students last week, a legacy of St. Pius V, who was a Dominican. And with this election of the Catholic Pope, who is head of, by the way, not just the Latin Rite, or what we might call the Roman Church in America, for whatever reason, Catholics refer to the Latin Rite as the Roman Catholic Church. And they don't seem to know there are other Catholic churches that are part of the universal church. But in any case, the Pope has jurisdiction over the 24 rites of the church. It used to be 20. Actually, I remember it being 22 rites. And then recently there was a Mozambique rite that was added to the church, and there must have been another along the lines as well. So I will bite my tongue and not get into a discussion and explanation of jurisdictions and all of this stuff. Interesting though it is. Anyway, we read from CNA, which is from EWTN, the Catholic Service in America. And by the way, if you want Islamic news, you go to Islamic sources. We're going to look at India, Pakistan. We're going to Indian sources, and maybe we should go to Pakistani sources. Right? I really don't care what CNN is going to say about India, Pakistan. We want to look at Russia. We should probably get an article from Russia Today. And definitely when it comes to religious topics in the press, you definitely want to go to the horse's mouth. So this is a Catholic topic. You go to Catholic News Agency. Okay, Cardinal Robert Francis Provost has been elected 267th Pope of the Catholic Church, taking the name, indeed, Leo the 14th. And white smoke rose in the chimney of the Sistine Chapel at 6:09 p.m. Rome time on Thursday, signaling what the College of Cardinals had chosen a successor to Pope Francis, who died on the 21st of April. Hey, do we have himself here? Oh, yes, we do. Hey, Dr. Fetzer. Oh, live time here. How you doing, Dr. Fetzer?
John, sorry, I lost track of time.
No worries. It happens to me. So I got going already, Dr. Fetzer. I was just getting into the new Pope and things, but I can hand things off to yourself right now if you're ready to roll, or I can keep going until you're all set.
What have you been covering?
Sure. I just did a few announcements in the beginning, and then I just got into the papal election. So I hadn't even really gotten into that much.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can pick up with the papal election now, John. I've been unable to upload all my stories, so I mean, I can just give you verbal. Is that okay?
That's excellent. Yeah, and I have a few images here that I had queued up. So yeah, that's great, Dr. Fetzer, I will hit the mute button, and you have the floor, sir, and we can chit-chat as we go along.
Well, John, it's always a pleasure to join you. While Catholics celebrate mega seethes over a woke new Pope Leo XIV, turns out the supporters of Trump Make America Great Again movement have expressed their opposition to the new leader of the Catholic Church. It's going to be a rocky ride, I think, for those who believe in, the keeping men out of women's sports, all the transgender, diversity, equity, inclusion. Mega commentator Laura Loomer wrote a series of posts strongly criticizing Leo. The new Pope supports illegal aliens and open borders. He retweeted tweets in support of dreamers. Illegals attacked Trump's use of the phrase bad hombres to describe violent illegals. He thinks it's a racist phrase. The new Pope also tweeted about how we need to keep praying for a career criminal and drug addict George Floyd. May all hatred, violence, and prejudice be eradicated. What prejudice is another way to spell fentanyl overdose. She's very upset that he is, in effect, a Marxist Pope. I'll tell you, based upon my own research of George Floyd, it was a fabricated event. It wasn't real. When he was arrested, he had hair on his head. He was handcuffed behind his back, put in the car. Next thing we know, he's lying on the ground. Now his hands are in front of his body. Impossible. If he had been handcuffed behind his back, he has no hair. In fact, the kneeling is on a Sigma 7 African American airway training dummy. And when he lifted up, put on a stretcher, there's no legs because it's not even a real person. And of course, he's lost his hair. I mean, this is just ridiculous, John. Embarrassingly bad. Now, maybe the Pope is just as fallible as the rest of the public in being played, but this is not good, in my opinion. So, would you like to converse about this or your thoughts?
Yes, sir. And just for the audience and Dr. Fetzer, if there's ever a delay, it's just because I'm turning off the mute button, and sometimes the computer's a bit laggy. So yes. I would just say, in the general sense, it was a good few days for ceremonial, just visually speaking. But yeah, time will tell as to the papacy. Popes in the past, in the 19th century, like Pius IX, famously came into office quite liberal and left quite sober and quite hostile. So people can have a change of heart. As to George Floyd, I should say to the audience, just yesterday, I had an interview with Miriam Hanane, and she has a 700 page book that she's put out on St. Floyd, on George Floyd. We're up on the 5-year anniversary of this nonsense. I was not aware of the dummy. I wonder if Dr. Fetzer can elaborate some, but I would encourage, in the meantime, people to check out that chat with Miriam about her book and about this whole psyop.
Yeah, Miriam's wonderful. You can go to my false flag and conspiracy conference for 2020 included a presentation I made available online called Deception Galore, Faking Hate Crimes and More, where I go through the Jussie Smollett and the George Floyd and the NASCAR news hoax, which it was just a pull cord. I mean, this is just ridiculous stuff. And everyone knows about the Jussie Smollett at 2 a.m. coming out of a subway at the coldest night in Chicago. He's this guy who's a part-time an actor on a show called Empire, claims he's assaulted by 2 redneck thugs. They turned out to be Nigerian bodybuilders. One's his personal trainer. The other is an extra on the set who just happened to be carrying a bottle of bleach, which I think at the temperature then might have been frozen solid in a noose, looking for a black gay actor coming out of a subway. I mean, the whole story was preposterous. So if you want to find the expose there, including George Floyd being lifted up into the stretcher with no legs, go to Deception Galore. It's out there. Just do a search. You'll find it right away. Meanwhile, we have a whole lot going on with Pakistan and India. 125 jets have clashed in one of the largest dogfights of recent history. Pakistan's Chinese-made jet has brought down 2 Indian fighters, and we had a report yesterday 5 of them had been shot down. India has launched at least 25 Israeli-made drones in Pakistan, but Pakistan has shot them down. Meanwhile, China has vowed to stand with Putin against hegemonic bullying. That's in terms of international relations, but China is standing with Pakistan. Israel has been open in supporting India. John, there's a potential here for nuclear war because Pakistan has been supporting Ukraine and sent a vast number of its 155 millimeter artillery shells to Ukraine, so it doesn't have the weaponry for a conventional war. India has about 180 nukes, Pakistan about 170. Even that Turkish warship is even pulled into a Karachi port, where my suspicion is that Turkey wants to support Pakistan because Turkey would like to take a stronger stand against Israel in the Middle East. But because Turkey doesn't have any nukes, it's worried about Israel retaliating. So I believe they want to level the playing field by picking up a few of those little beauties from Pakistan. And I think it'll probably come to pass. In any case, even though we thought the greatest threat of nuclear war was either with Russia, Ukraine, or with Israel and Iran, I think, in fact, it's with Pakistan and India. Your thoughts, my friend?
Yes, obviously this fits into ongoing conflicts in the Near East and in Europe, as you point out. And I was scrambling here. I'll see if I can pull it up in a little bit for an article getting into the fact that Mossad was reported in Kashmir, which is this disputed territory for the audience who may not be familiar, between India and Pakistan, and that there were these Islamic so-called radicals that came in and killed all these Indians, which happens periodically. But that Mossad in this article was reported in the area, and so everyone's favorite Middle Eastern boogeyman is up to no good, even in Central Asia, allegedly, apparently.
Yeah, meanwhile, over 500 Ukrainian drones now were shot down in one day by Russia. Can you believe over 500 drones shot down in one day? And it turns out that the manufacturer of the AK-47, which is by far the most popular small arm in the world, has developed a new drone gun. The Kalashnikov has created a new anti-drone gun. This is pretty fascinating. Here's part of the story. Company of Kalashnikov created Rex 1 electronic gun against light drones. It has now a new Rex 2 option, presented at an Army 2019. Smallest in the world gun to fight drones. And I'm looking at an image of it, kind of nifty. Small drones still pose major threats. In 2018, a swarm of drones attacked the Russian Humim air base in Syria. Some were downed by Panzer and others neutralized by electronic warfare. Modern air defense is not always effective against drones, as it does not have the necessary reaction speed. it's difficult for modern reconnaissance to detect small drones, thus specialized weapons are needed. Well, Khrushchev has got a specialized weapon, and I'm very impressed. Meanwhile, and I think this is ominous for Ukraine, Russian frontline troops have received new tanks. I think this is what they need for a further offensive into Ukraine. The Russian army has received new batches of T-90M and T-772B3M main battle tanks delivered to frontline units from the tank plant the first week of May and benefit from a number of capability improvements reflecting lessons learned from high-intensity combat in the Ukrainian theater. New variants of the two tanks benefit from reinforced rooftop cage armor to provide physical protection against drones, loitering munitions, and top-attack anti-tank guided missiles, which have been used extensively by both sides against enemy armor. Both tank chassis also benefit from electronic warfare antennae mounted on the front hull to intercept low-flying drone threats, which are suspected to be tied to anti-drone jammers. Following reports in August that the T-90Ms were integrating the Arena M active protection system, subsequent reports that the T-72 modernized with similar levels of armor protection were also to receive the system. New batches of the tanks have reportedly been delivered, with the Arena M providing significantly greater survivability. The first image of the T-72 deployed to the front line with the Arena M has been published just in this past March. So the Russians, of course, are continuing to dominate. Trump has sought to affect the situation by this mineral deal with Ukraine, which commits the U.S. to providing some kind of protection for Ukraine. But, John, it's ludicrous. Russia has the hand. They have control. They're winning the war. They have very short supply lines. They have massive production capabilities. The United States isn't in a position to assist Ukraine. And anything we could provide has already been provided and found wanting. So I'm pretty distressed over the idea of Trump making this kind of commitment, one of many he's making that I find highly troubling. I'm concerned about his leadership capabilities in relation to foreign affairs, John. I'm not a happy camper. Your thoughts?
Yes, thank you for that. So just one thing before we get to Trump and the Ukraine here. Notice for the audience this drone gun that Dr. Fetzer referenced. I don't know if this is the best picture here. It might be a bit blurry, but notice I cannot see any munitions. This looks like it's you say it's like it sends out a pulse. Is that it?
Electronic. Yeah, it's an electronic weapon.
Yeah, this is something else altogether. Wow.
Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah, because it's not like sending out bullets or shells. It's sending out electrical pulses.
Right, and they've shot down 500 Ukrainian drones, and I'm sure was using this type of weapon.
Remarkable. But as regards Ukraine, of course, perhaps Dr. Fetzer will reference it in down the line here. But of course, Russia has its celebration of the end of World War II, and I was talking, Dr. Fetzer, today in Moscow. They have that. I was talking about how forgetful we are in America. We used to call this VE Day, and I don't think there's one man in 100 that knows that today is VE Day in America. We've completely forgotten this, but the Russians haven't. And they see what's going on in Ukraine as a continuation of the Second World War with all these Nazi remnants in Ukraine. And they refer to it as, this anti-fascist war. And my final point to this, some food for thought for everyone, is what's happening in Ukraine obviously is a war of attrition. And one of the things you see with wars of attrition is they go on and on and on whether that's Vietnam or Germany in 1917 or Afghanistan or Syria more recently, you're going to see the same thing happen in Ukraine. This thing is going to drag on, and then when everything, or the American Confederacy is another example. When everything snaps in Ukraine, it's going to happen fast. All those examples I just gave you, these wars seem to never end. And then when everything collapsed, it collapsed really fast. And that's what's going to happen in Ukraine. And Russia is getting ready for the final blow. When that happens, time will tell. But the Russians have moved in not just heavier munitions, but also large armies. I've heard 2 new armies are being formed for the final showdown there. So when things collapse in Ukraine, our heads are going to spin with how fast it happens.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too, John. And I've been very worried that Ukraine would try to undertake a massive assault on a parade for the victory in Europe, in Moscow, because it's such a huge target. So it's been a concern of mine, given that these are unscrupulous agents, that they're willing to employ all kinds of tactics that a civilized army would not, that they might try to bring about a massive casualty event in Moscow during the parade. During World War II, by the way, Russia really was a primary factor in defeating the German war machine. The Russians lost as many 20 million during World War II. I mean, the U.S., a tiny token, maybe over 150,000, whatever. But the Russians suffered massively. Their winner, of course, as in the case of Napoleon, was instrumental in defeating the enemy too. But Russia has much to celebrate, and the West, it seems to me, has been negligent historically, not acknowledging the Russian contribution to victory in Europe and World War II. I think it's very bad by the West to seek to minimize, trivialize Russia, or even, as we have seen of late, demonize Russia, when Russia is acting in a principled way. And John, if you look at Russian culture, it's very much like American culture back in the 50s. Very conventional Western values, family-oriented, low rate of crime, high rate of national patriotism, enthusiasm. I think very highly of the Russian people, who in general have more in common with real Americans. I'm not talking about immigrants now, than perhaps any other population in the world. So the idea that we're at odds with Russia is stressful, in my opinion, represent profound political blunders and mistakes. And I'm just sorry to say Trump seems to be furthering those blunders.
Well, recently I heard Donald Trump say that, America, how did he phrase it? Bill Clinton did this actually too in 1994, but Donald Trump doubled down on it. Russia helped us win in Europe. That was not the case. As you pointed out, Dr. Fetzer, America and Britain and France helped Russia win against the Germans.
That's right, John. Excellent. Very well put. Meanwhile, Trump loves to, claim responsibility whenever there's an improvement, marginal or not, claims to have made a deal with the Houthis, who are really the government of Yemen. I mean, these aren't terrorists. These are a legitimate controlling population in Yemen, which has declared war on Israel and had heretofore been interdicting only ships that were headed to Israel with war materials as is appropriate in accordance with the laws of war, where even the United Nations has confirmed the Houthis have been acting honorably. Trump, of course, nevertheless has launched attack after attack, 1,000 attacks on the Houthis, John. This is, in my opinion, completely despicable. The Houthis, as a consequence, have attacked American ships. Now Trump is claiming he's made a deal with the Houthis, but it has, that they're not going to attack American ships, and presumably that America and he's made this declaration as well, is not going to be attacking the Houthis any longer. But he has, and this is kind of striking, he's praised the Houthis' bravery. Well, I regard them as the most robust and resilient fighting force in the world today. I admire them beyond words. So it's intriguing. Trump seems to have some grudging respect for the Houthis, and there appears to be nothing about this purported deal that entails any consequences for Israel. I'm confident the Houthis are going to continue to attack Israel, which, by the way, just launched a massive attack on their principal airport, and apparently was highly destructive, and they have vowed an emphatic response, and I believe they're capable of delivering on their promise.
Yes, for certain, for certain. And one of the things that strikes me as we consider the Houthis, and and I agree with you, Dr. Fetzer, their admirable resistance to Israel at a time, as we've said before, where much of the Islamic world has stood down. Something that strikes me is you have what appears to be a genuine independence movement in Yemen, and that is not controlled. And I'm struck by the fact that the Taliban are another such group that I have a great admiration for, frankly, and the resistance. And both of them, what's interesting to me is how did the Islamic resistance of Yemen and Afghanistan, how did that not get gobbled up and become this cartoon like ISIS? And I think a big aspect of that is both the Houthis and the Afghans are still heavily tribal societies, and that sort of social organization, it's obvious the type of resistance and the type of immunity it gives to these people compared to groups like, in Iraq or Syria or whatever, which are much more westernized and broken down and modernized in terms of losing that tribal structure, and how easy it was to infiltrate, much less us in the West, where we've completely had those ethnic bonds cut. So I'm just struck by the tribal reality that it gives them the opportunity to be genuine resistance to, in this case, Israel with the Houthis.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Trump seems to have gone bananas over Iran. I don't really get it. The latest, Iran has to turn over its uranium, destroy its centrifuges, or be blown up. Iran's not going to accept that. They're engaged in a peaceful use of nuclear energy. That's something the whole world is entitled to. It was initiated by the Atoms for Peace Project way back when. They're not going to give up their centrifuges. Turns out, however, that uranium production isn't really the key to developing nuclear weapons. It's a plutonium that's a derivative of uranium enrichment. So in many ways, Trump's out of focus on every aspect of this. He's even talked about, and J.D. Vance has issued similar claims, that countries with peaceful nuclear energy projects all have developed nuclear weapons. It's not true of Japan. It's not true of Germany. I mean, there are other nations. I mean, they're just blowing smoke, John. I'm embarrassed when you have the leader of the United States being ignorant about basic facts about Iran when he's threatening to go to war with Iran, but doesn't even understand the most elementary facts. I mean, this is just bad policy, incompetent leadership. Frankly, I find it disgusting, especially when you consider Iran is the most peace-committed nation in the world, having not launched a war of aggression against any other state since 1775, John. 1775. Just to put that in perspective, the Constitution was ratified in 1787. George Washington elected our first president in 1789. So for longer than the United States has existed as a constitutional republic, Iran has not launched a war of aggression against any other state. It has, of course, defended itself against the onslaught from Iraq, which was initiated by the U.S., where both sides lost about 1 million men. But this ignorance, this profound misunderstanding of Iran and its place in the world is just outrageous. And of course, it appears Trump is believing everything Bibi Netanyahu tells him, where Bibi is the world's greatest liar, maybe historically the all-time champion, promoting falsehoods to supplement his nasty, ill-gotten agenda for ultimately world domination. I mean, it's bizarre, John, how these Israeli Zionists think that they are superior to all other races who only exist to serve the Jew.
Yes, and there's some very bizarre statements, as Dr. Fetzer was alluding to, but they're not occulted at all. You can easily find them from certain of these Zionist documents and their rabbis and things. And part of it too is that because Benjamin Netanyahu has so many court cases and legal problems, he's had to, for about a year and a half there. And part of his comeback, so to speak, has been to forge himself a rabid Zionist, but he's had to forge an alliance with even more insane ideologues like Ben Gvir and some of those people. And so it is like Christmas morning for these settlers and these fanatics. And not all of the Israelis are like that. But unfortunately, these ones are, and they are going bonkers. I will put down below, when I find it, the article that I alluded to earlier about Mossad being in Kashmir, having a hand in what's going on with India and Pakistan. But here you have, this is a picture of Tehran. That you can build pretty things like this when you're not trying to invade countries like America. But yeah, I mean, Mossad, and with the fanatics in Tel Aviv in power, Mossad is just going all over the Near East and Central Asia, trying to spread this Zion kingdom, because they have this whole idea of, Dr. Fetzer knows this, of owning everything from the Nile to the Euphrates. These people are mad. And Trump is completely complicit. This is a tremendous, whatever good about the man and his administration, this intoxication on Zionism and letting Netanyahu nibble on his ear, this is not a good thing.
Yep, it's terrible. It's completely disgusting. Meanwhile, there are all those who ask whether Trump is actually serious about ending our endless wars. I think that's a totally legitimate question. I mean, he campaigned as a peace candidate. He said he was going to end these stupid wars. He thought he could end the Ukraine war overnight. He could have, by just cutting off supplies. Just he could end the slaughter in Gaza just by cutting off supplies. This is not rocket science, but he hasn't done it. And now he's gone forward with a mineral deal. He's talking about turning Gaza into the Riviera of the Mediterranean. I mean, this is loopy. I mean, it makes you wonder whether the man has lost his senses altogether, John. I'm very, very, actually profoundly disturbed about whether this guy is all there. Some of the things he said are just completely off the wall. And this is coming from someone who supported him with great enthusiasm for all these years, voted for him 3 times, defended him in innumerable contexts, but is now gradually coming to gravitate toward his wife's view, which is that Trump was always a con man from the beginning. I'm now more open to the possibility she might have it right.
And was that Ivanka who said that, or
my wife, John.
Oh, your own wife. Excuse me. Sorry about that.
Yeah, my wife.
Oh wow, yeah. So she was always of that opinion, you say?
Yeah. We've had the most strenuous arguments of our marriage, and we were born in 1977. So we're talking about around 48 years, the most intense arguments over politics over Trump. Or she's been a profound skeptic, and I've been an enthusiastic supporter, but I'm now becoming persuaded she may have been right from the beginning, and I may have had it wrong.
Well, I mean, why this shift? And part of it may be, who does Donald Trump believe will be his heir apparent? And we would think, well, his sons, but perhaps he actually has it lined up for the daughter, Eve. Eve, what's the girl's name? Married to, yeah, Ivanka, married to the Kushner guy.
Yeah,
Ivanka, right? I mean, if that's the case, the Kushner obviously is of divided loyalties and a Zionist through and through. So, yeah, I mean, if that's the case, if Ivanka is the heir apparent to the Trump legacy, and that he wants her to run for president down the line, and all this, wow, he's setting things up that way, and I guess the country will be sold out because of Kushner. And I wouldn't trust that man farther than I could throw him. And
yeah, Kushner is quite obviously Mossad. I think he is completely untrustworthy. Not that Mossad isn't a highly professional organization. Like, I mean, Jeffrey Epstein was Mossad. Look at the success he achieved. Now, it's for an illicit goal, totally corrupt, but they tend to get the job done. It's very, very troubling.
Did you have any thoughts on the Virginia Giuffre? Have you followed that at all? What is your mind?
I thought she was wonderful and courageous, speaking out. We had the photographs early on of her with Prince Andrew, also known as Randy Andy. He's had a history of womanizing. I mean, a real horn dog, as the Southern expression has it. And I'm afraid Virginia was almost certainly murdered. She affirmed she was non-suicidal. Now, I have heard the report that when we saw her bruised and battered body that was allegedly from a bus hit, that actually her husband is a wife beater, and she may have been suffering all those bruises, which I think actually are more consistent with a beating than they were with being hit with a bus. But there were a lot of parties there wanted to silence Virginia. She protested she was not suicidal. I believe her. I think she was taken out. And that, why has Pam Bondi not released all the Epstein files? We were promised all this good stuff. Where is it? Where is it, John? I'm worried. And there are those who believe Trump was also ensnared in his underage sex trafficking with these girls. I'm worried about that as well.
Yeah, and it all connects as the years go on, and we can see that this network, this filthy network, has been operate for so long. I mean, we could take this stuff back to the Franklin Savings and Loan. I believe there's a connection. This is the same methodology and stuff through the 90s, with all connected to Epstein, this P. Diddy stuff, and blackmail is the name of the game. And I mean, that's unfortunately something I have in the back of my head when it comes to Trump and the impotence of Donald Trump. Him, who can be very potent when he wants to, on certain points is meek, and I can only wonder if that's because he's compromised or the men around him are compromised.
Yeah, I'm worried about it. The state of our government seems a reek of corruption. I had counted on him to clean it up, drain the swamp. We've yet to see it happen. He's done good things. He has secured the border, so the inflow has been brought to a trickle. But I haven't seen the massive deportation he promised to undertake. He's been good about getting men out of women's sports, although some states are resisting. I do believe they're going to take aggressive legal action to end that. They're going to act against sanctuary cities and states who've been harboring the illegals. He's got a whole lot more work to do. I just say, get on with it, Donald, and stop this nonsense in foreign policy. Get your head screwed on right.
Yeah, and I would say that to the so-called conservatives too. If you're going to be conservative and all of this stuff, well, then part of that has to be, let's go back to George Washington. We used to know what VE Day was. Well, we also used to know Washington's farewell address as a country. I don't say as conservatives or this or that. And that was the advice of the man leaving office. Famously, people used to know this. Don't get involved in foreign entanglements. And it's part of the unseemliness of this, and maybe disappointment of the Trump administration, is to watch these so-called conservatives who all of a sudden, when their guy is in charge, don't care about executive orders, don't care about foreign policy adventures, and whatnot. Principle has to matter for something, and that's something we all, however we look at things, we need to go back to principles. Otherwise, we become these cartoons that are just tossed about by the latest elections and our guy's in office and whatever.
And there's too much evidence that he's actually, rather than making America great again, making Israel great again. He promised to be the best president for Israel they've ever had. It's as though Bibi Netanyahu were calling the shots in relation to foreign affairs. Sad to say.
So, Dr. Fetzer, as we knock off here, what's new on your site or on some of your other shows that you have going on? Anyone you want to point out? Any things you want to point out for us?
Let me mention two things. One is that I had a debate last night. I have a show on RBN, Republic Broadcasting Network, where I succeeded Michael Rivero. It's a show called Authentic News, 5 days a week from 2 to 4 Eastern on RBN. Well, one of our callers, Don from Arizona, offered to give the station $1,000 in support if I would debate a fellow named Jeff Nyquist about JFK. Well, I was glad to do that to support RBN, and we had the debate last night. And I got to say, it was really, truly remarkable because this fellow was really following the official narrative to a T. In fact, I find it difficult to differentiate between his position and the CIA memorandum on dealing with critics of the Warren Report. I think we heard from him virtually every one of the claims that they've offered as advice, but he seemed to be abysmally ignorant of research and never responded to any of the points I made directly. He stuck to his script, where it is this easy to debunk the idea that all the shots were fired from above and behind. When Malcolm Kilduff, the acting press secretary, announced the death of JFK, he said it was a simple matter of a bullet right through the head while pointing to his right temple. Well, does Jeff Nyquist or anyone else think that shot was fired from above and behind? I mean, here you had a reputation of Warren Report a year before it was even published. And there's much, much more. So I want to encourage everyone, although it was audio, the broadcast, I created a video version because I had all my slides. So you see what I'm talking about there is further reinforcement. Now that's should be up on my BitChute video website this morning. Probably by the time we conclude our conversation here, it'll be posted. The other is this. I've been assailed by a guy, very strange fellow, by the name of Victor Hugo Vaca, who has published hundreds, I mean, not just one or two, hundreds of really despicable, savage attacks. He's gone after me on all kinds of fabricated, phony, false grounds. He's attacked all of my colleagues who have stood up for me. I mean, it's just appalling. And I am seeking to take legal action against him. So I'd like to make an appeal. It's not going to cost a lot, but I need some funds I don't have. If you visit givesendgo.com/funding Fetzer, no slash at the end, givesendgo.com/funding Fetzer, you'll get a capsule summary. You'll be able to go to where you can see these hundreds and hundreds of videos. If you think it's worth my, supporting my effort to take this down, which may require, I've already sent cease and desist to BitChute and Rumble, which have been allowing these to stand, then I would be most grateful if you could toss a few bucks into the hopper. And let me just say, John, how much I appreciate doing these shows with you, and I appreciate your audience, and I welcome this opportunity and would be gratefully appreciative of anyone who thinks this is a cause worthy of their support.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Dr. Fetzer. That link, once we conclude this live broadcast, will be down below in the description. Not just Dr. Fetzer's link, but the one for the Give, Send, Go. I will edit that in as well. And please do support your man here. I think Mr. Vaca is a very talented man, and it's unseemly for an elder to behave this way. I see these posts because I get updates from Rumble, and these are very bizarre points altogether, and it's not seemly for him to behave that way. And so anyway, you can assist Dr. Fetzer in that, and also check out his books and so forth on the site. So to the audience, thank you for your attention here. We've covered a whole lot in the last hour, everything from the papal election to the India-Pakistan war, hopefully short-lived, to Ukraine, to the continuing scandal of Donald Trump's betrayal of certain values, American values, and indeed to topics appropriate to these hosts here that you get every couple of weeks in front of you. So thank you to the audience, and do support Dr. Fetzer, and especially Dr. Fetzer. Thank you for your time here.
My great pleasure, John. Keep up the great work.